The forks paused midair. Conversations halted. Heads turned toward the corner booth where Rebecca Chen sat in her sleek custom wheelchair, her long dark hair cascading over a perfectly tailored navy blazer. The silence spread like ripples in still water as the man's voice cut across the restaurant, loud and sharp. "Wait, you're in a wheelchair. Is this a joke?" Rebecca's hand tightened around the edge of the table knuckles, whitening against the dark wood. Her face remained composed, a mask of practiced control, but inside something twisted painfully. She had known this was a risk. Dating apps rarely had checkboxes for paralyzed from the waist down. Still, it stung more than she had anticipated. I mean, come on. Alex Warner stood now, his expensive suit catching the light as he gestured incredulously. "You're the girl from the app. You didn't say you were—" His hand motioned to the chair. "Broken." Gasps rippled through the restaurant. A waiter nearby froze water pitchers suspended in mid-pour. A couple whispered behind their menus, and someone's phone camera lifted discreetly recording the scene. Rebecca straightened her back shoulders, pulling into perfect posture as her mother had taught her long before the accident. Her voice emerged low-measured, betraying none of the hurt. "I didn't think I had to explain that. I came here for conversation. If you came for a fantasy, I'm not it." He let out a cruel laugh, eyes scanning her from top to bottom. "You're right. You're not." Then louder for the whole room. "I thought I matched with Rebecca Chen, the CEO, the billionaire biotech genius, not some sympathy case." There it was. He knew who she was. And now so did everyone else in the upscale restaurant. Whispers followed, recognition spreading. Someone mouthed, "Is that really her?" Rebecca sat motionless, every inch the powerful executive in her tailored clothing and understated jewelry. But now she felt like a wounded animal on display, vulnerable in a way she hadn't felt since waking up in the hospital 5 years ago. Her throat tightened as she reached for her purse, calculating the quickest exit route. She would leave alone again. "I think that's enough." The voice cut through the tension, calm and steady. Every head turned toward the entrance, where a tall man stood broad-shouldered in a worn denim jacket and dusty work boots. His presence was quiet but undeniable as he walked with purpose through the restaurant, eyes locked not on Alex but on Rebecca. He passed the stunned host and approached her table, coming to stand beside her wheelchair. His hand rested gently on the back of her chair, not presuming to touch her, but establishing his position clearly. "Are you ready to go?" he asked softly, eyes meeting hers. Rebecca blinked, momentarily confused. Was this another cruel joke, some coordinated humiliation? But his gaze was steady, kind not pitying, just present. She gave a small nod, still wary. The man turned to face Alex, who stood slack-jawed at the interruption. "She deserves better." The simplicity of the statement, delivered without raising his voice, seemed to fill the entire restaurant. With that, he gently turned Rebecca's chair, guiding her toward the door. No one stopped them. No one dared speak. They left behind a stunned silence, and the image of a man who didn't raise his voice, only his presence. Outside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of rain. Rebecca felt the tension in her shoulders begin to ease as they moved away from the restaurant's golden glow into the dimly lit street. "I'm Nathan Reynolds," he said, letting go of her chair once they reached the sidewalk. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over like that. I just couldn't watch that happen." Rebecca looked up at him, taking in his stubbled jaw, calloused hands, and the grease stain on his collar. His eyes, however, held something unexpected, a quiet dignity that resonated with her. "You don't even know me," she said quietly. He shrugged. "Didn't need to. Nobody deserves that kind of treatment." Rebecca exhaled slowly, some of the humiliation fading. "Thank you, I'm Rebecca." "I figured," he replied with a small smile. "Your face is on the side of the MediLife building downtown." Despite everything, a soft, surprised laugh escaped her. It felt foreign in her throat, unfamiliar. "Not my best angle." They stood in silence for a moment, just city sounds, and her heartbeat slowing back to normal. The awkwardness of the situation settled between them. "I didn't get to eat," she admitted, suddenly aware of how hungry she was. "Skipped lunch for, well, that." Nathan glanced back at the restaurant, then down the street. "Doesn't look like you missed much anyway." After a beat, he added, "There's a food truck around the corner. Nothing fancy, but the kebabs are legendary." Rebecca hesitated. The years of careful image management and security concerns warring with the simple human desire for food and conversation without judgment. Nathan waited, making no move to persuade her. "Lead the way," she finally said. For the first time in years, Rebecca followed someone not out of fear or obligation, but choice. Because sometimes healing begins with disaster, and sometimes the right person walks in just when the world walks out. The evening breeze carried the scent of rain-soaked asphalt as they moved along the sidewalk. Nathan walked beside her, hands tucked into his jacket pockets. He didn't hover. He didn't push unless she asked. He just walked steady and unhurried, matching her pace without apparent effort. "Did you manage to eat anything in there before?" He trailed off, his voice careful. She shook her head, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I didn't exactly have the chance." He started the performance almost immediately after sitting down. Nathan nodded. "Some people show you who they are right away. Saves time, at least." The food stall appeared around the corner, a modest setup lit by strings of yellow bulbs. The scent of garlic soy and roasted meat filled the air. Families sat on mismatched stools, laughter and clinking bottles. Weaving through the night, Rebecca felt strangely out of place, yet oddly at ease. This wasn't her usual five-star restaurant with private rooms and sommeliers. It was loud, messy, vibrant life. Nathan ordered for them both 2 skewers, fried dumplings, and bottles of sparkling water. When he reached for his wallet, Rebecca moved to stop him, but he shook his head. "My invitation, my treat," he said simply. When the food arrived, the server leaned awkwardly over Rebecca, and a streak of thick sauce slipped from a skewer, splattering across her shoe and ankle. She froze. Heat flushed her face. This was exactly the kind of accident she dreaded, moments that magnified her chair, her difference, her inability to maneuver quickly. She braced for the uncomfortable aftermath, the server's flustered apologies, the pitying looks, Nathan's discomfort. Instead, Nathan calmly reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded cloth rag, the kind mechanics carry. "Hold on," he murmured. Before she could protest, he crouched beside her. With easy, unhurried movements, he dabbed the sauce from the leather of her shoe. Then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, he gently lifted her foot, supporting it with both hands, and placed it back onto the footrest of her chair. Not a hint of hesitation, not a flicker of pity, just care, respect, and pragmatism. Rebecca's breath caught. No one touched her like that anymore, not since before the accident. Every gesture from others had been heavy with awkwardness or dripping with condescension. But Nathan's touch was different, steady, practical kind. "There," he said simply, straightening. "Good as new." She opened her mouth, then closed it, unsure what words could possibly carry the weight of her gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered finally. He shrugged lightly. "It's just sauce." "No," she said, her voice firmer. "It isn't." Their eyes met across the small table. For a moment, the chatter of the crowd, the hiss of the grill, the clatter of chopsticks, all of it faded. Rebecca saw in him something she hadn't expected, a man who looked at her without agenda, without judgment. She realized with a sharp ache in her chest that this was the first time in years someone had treated her as whole. Not defined by what she had lost, but seen for who she was. Nathan broke the silence with a smile, gesturing to the skewers. "Eat before it gets cold. Trust me, food like this doesn't wait." She laughed softly, a sound she hardly recognized as her own. She took a bite, and for the first time that night, the taste of something simple and real spread through her, garlic, ginger, the char of the grill. It wasn't just food, it was freedom. The penthouse was cold when Rebecca returned, the floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting the city lights against the darkness of her living room. Everything gleamed chrome glass, polished hardwood. The space had been meticulously designed to accommodate her wheelchair while hiding that fact from casual observers. Ramps disguised as gentle slopes, counters at perfect heights, doorways widened just enough. A beautiful cage. Her phone buzzed as she moved through the kitchen. Sarah, her assistant, checking if she was okay after her networking dinner. Rebecca tapped out a quick response, saying nothing about the disaster or the unexpected rescue. She wheeled to the windows, looking out at the city sprawled below like a circuit board of lights. Somewhere out there, Nathan Reynolds had returned to his life, probably already forgetting about her. A strange emptiness settled in her chest at the thought. The accident flashed in her mind, screeching tires, shattering glass, waking up to a doctor's grave face. The impact severed your spinal cord at T10. You have what we call an incomplete injury. You'll retain sensation but limited motor function below the injury site. 5 years of rebuilding followed. Physical therapy, psychological therapy, taking back control of MediLife from board members who thought she was no longer capable, proving herself over and over until she became the inspirational CEO in the wheelchair, a symbol rather than a person. She closed her eyes, remembering the simple way Nathan had wiped sauce from her shoe. No performance, no agenda. Without overthinking, she pulled out her phone and sent a text to the number he'd given her. "Thank you for tonight. I'd like to return the favor sometime." She set the phone down, not expecting an immediate response. To her surprise, it buzzed almost instantly. "You don't owe me anything, but I wouldn't say no to coffee. Good night, Rebecca." For the first time in months, she smiled at her empty apartment. The garage was quiet except for the muffled sounds of Tyler's cartoon show drifting from the small living room. Nathan closed the apartment door behind him, the familiar scents of motor oil and the mac and cheese he'd made for dinner mingling in the air. "Uncle Nate!" Tyler's excited voice preceded the 8-year-old as he bounded around the corner toy car clutched in one hand. "You missed the best part. The blue car beat everyone in the race, even though it was smaller." Nathan hung his jacket on the hook by the door, crouching down to Tyler's level. "Sorry, buddy. Had to help someone out." He ruffled the boy's dark hair, so much like his sister's had been. "Did you finish your homework before cartoons?" Tyler nodded vigorously. "Ms. Wilson said my math was exceptional. That means really good. That's my guy, always the smart one in the family." As Tyler returned to his show, Nathan moved to the kitchen counter littered with bills marked final notice and past due. He pushed them aside with a sigh and checked the lunch he'd packed for Tyler tomorrow. 5 years ago, Nathan had been on track to finish his mechanical engineering degree on full scholarship. Then came the call. His sister Amber, struggling with addiction for years, had overdosed, leaving behind 3-year-old Tyler. The choice had been immediate and absolute. Degree, abandoned custody papers filed, 2 jobs taken to keep them afloat. He never regretted it, not for a second. But nights like tonight, seeing someone like Rebecca Chen watching her strength in the face of cruelty, made him wonder about paths not taken. His phone buzzed with her text message. His thumb hovered over the screen, uncertain. What could he possibly offer someone like her? Their worlds couldn't be further apart. "Who are you texting, Uncle Nate?" Tyler peered around the corner, curious as always. "Just someone I met tonight." Tyler's eyebrows rose. "A girl, you're smiling weird." Nathan hadn't realized he was smiling at all. "Maybe. Go brush your teeth, bud. School tomorrow." As Tyler disappeared toward the bathroom, Nathan stared at the message again. Common sense said to leave it alone. Rebecca Chen lived in a different universe, boardrooms and biotech, not oil changes and overdue electric bills. But he thought of her face when he'd wiped the sauce from her shoe. The surprise, the gratitude, the human connection beneath the CEO mask. Before he could talk himself out of it, he typed a response and hit send. Tyler poked his head back and toothbrush dangling from his mouth. "You always tell me not to be scared of trying new things, even if they might not work out." Nathan looked up, caught off guard by the child's perceptiveness. "When did you get so smart?" Tyler grinning, toothpaste foaming. "I told you, Ms. Wilson says I'm exceptional." Rebecca sat in her office the next morning, half listening, as Sarah went through her schedule. The wall of glass behind her desk offered a panoramic view of the city MediLife's logo prominently displayed on buildings across the skyline. "The research team needs your sign-off on the new neural interface trials. The board wants preliminary numbers for the 3rd quarter, and Harold Chen's office called. Again." Sarah's professional tone took on an edge at the mention of Rebecca's father. Rebecca turned her wheelchair slightly. "What does my father want now?" "The usual, a family dinner to discuss your future role in Chen Pharmaceuticals. Schedule conflicts, all of them, for the next century." Sarah nodded, used to this response. "Also, the charity gala is next week. The PR team wants to confirm you'll speak about the new spinal regeneration project." Rebecca nodded, attention drifting to her phone. Nathan had agreed to coffee tomorrow. A simple thing that suddenly felt monumental. The intercom buzzed. "Dr. Chen, the research team is ready for you in Lab 3. Rebecca moved toward the door, her wheelchair humming quietly. "How do I look?" Sarah, professional enough to intimidate the board but approachable enough for the research team. Sarah smiled. "Perfectly balanced, as always." The laboratory was a stark contrast to her office: bright lights, white surfaces, the quiet hum of equipment. Researchers straightened as she entered, the respect evident in their postures. Dr. Chen, we've made progress with the neural pathway stimulation. Dr. Patel approached, tablet in hand. The preliminary results are promising. Rebecca studied the data, her mind shifting fully into CEO mode. This was why she had built MetaLife from the ground up after her accident, not just for herself, but for everyone told their conditions were permanent, their situations hopeless. Increase the sample size. I want this ready for human trials by next quarter. As the team dispersed, Rebecca felt a familiar pang. Here she was, Dr. Chen, the brilliant mind, the visionary. Not Rebecca, the woman who hadn't been on a real date in 5 years, who sometimes woke up forgetting she couldn't walk, who still dreamed of sand between her toes. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. A text from Nathan with an address for tomorrow's coffee. Not some exclusive downtown cafe, but a neighborhood place near his garage. Something inside her lightened. Tomorrow, for a little while, she could just be Rebecca. Nathan wiped his hands on a shop rag, squinting at the undercarriage of the vintage Mustang. The transmission issue was more complicated than the owner had let on, which meant a longer job for less pay than it deserved. Hey, Reynolds, phone call. Marco, the shop manager, called from the office. Nathan slid out from under the car, wondering who would be calling the garage line for him. Few people even knew where he worked. Some fancy-sounding lady asking if you're available for a private auto consultation tomorrow. Marco said, eyebrows raised suggestively. Since when do you do consultations for rich ladies? Nathan took the phone, turning away from Marco's curious stare. This is Nathan. Mr. Reynolds, this is Sarah Andrews, executive assistant to Rebecca Chen. Dr. Chen would like to confirm your meeting tomorrow and ask if you might be able to recommend a garage for her vehicle. Nathan leaned against the wall, suddenly aware of the grease under his fingernails and the tear in his work shirt. We're still on for coffee. As for her car, this shop can handle it if she wants to bring it by sometime. Excellent. I'll inform Dr. Chen. She'll meet you at the cafe at 10 a.m. The call ended abruptly, leaving Nathan staring at the grimy shop phone. The formality of an assistant calling to confirm coffee was a stark reminder of the world Rebecca inhabited. Private consultation, huh? Marco teased, returning to his clipboard. Must be nice to have fancy clients calling for you specifically. Nathan shrugged, sliding back under the Mustang. Just helping someone out. But his focus was shot. Tomorrow suddenly felt like more than coffee. It felt like stepping into territory he didn't belong in, a world where assistants scheduled your coffee dates and people called you doctor instead of your first name. He thought of Rebecca's face at the food stall, how for a brief moment she'd seemed to let go of something heavy she carried. He wanted to see that again, regardless of the world separating them. The coffee shop sat nestled between a bookstore and a vintage record shop, its large windows fogged from the steam of espresso machines inside. Rebecca arrived early, her driver helping with the wheelchair before she dismissed him, preferring to enter alone. The interior was warmly lit, mismatched furniture arranged in conversational clusters. No white tablecloths, no hovering waiters, just the rich aroma of coffee and the gentle hum of conversation. Nathan was already there, seated at a table near the window, modified to accommodate her wheelchair. He stood as she approached, not rushing to help, but clearly having prepared the space. Hope this works, he said, gesturing to the table arrangement. I called ahead to make sure. The consideration in that simple act caught her off guard. It's perfect, thank you. They ordered an Americano for her black coffee for him and fell into surprisingly easy conversation. Nathan spoke about engines and the satisfaction of fixing things, his eyes lighting up when describing a particularly challenging restoration. I've always believed there's something almost spiritual about bringing something broken back to life, he said, unself-conscious in his passion. Finding the problem, understanding how all the parts work together, then making it whole again. Rebecca found herself captivated not just by his words, but by the authenticity behind them. No performative interest, no hidden agenda, just genuine love for his craft. What about you, he asked. How did you end up running MetaLife? The question was direct, without the usual dance of pretending not to know about her accident. I founded it after my accident, she replied, fingers tracing the rim of her cup. I was on track to take over my father's pharmaceutical company, but after the crash, He decided I wasn't fit to lead anymore. Nathan's expression darkened. Because of the wheelchair. Officially because of concerns about my health and ability to handle stress. Unofficially, yes. The wheelchair. The board agreed with him. She took a sip of coffee, surprised at how easily the painful truth slipped out. So I started MediLife with my mother's inheritance, focused on neural regeneration and adaptive technology. Things personal to me now. And now your company is outperforming your father's, Nathan observed with a slight smile. Rebecca looked up startled. You researched me. Just the basics, wanted to understand what I was walking into. His honesty was refreshing. Hard not to be impressed. What about you, she asked, wanting to shift the focus. Have you always been a mechanic? A shadow crossed his face. No, I was studying mechanical engineering at State. Full scholarship. What happened? Nathan hesitated, seeming to debate how much to share. My sister happened, or more accurately, her addiction happened. She overdosed 5 years ago, left behind her son Tyler. He was 3. His voice softened. Someone had to step up. I was the only family left. Rebecca felt something shift between them, a deeper understanding forming. So you gave up your degree to raise him. Not much of a choice to make. He's a great kid, smart as hell, worth everything. The simple declaration held more integrity than any boardroom speech Rebecca had ever heard. Before she could respond, Nathan glanced at his watch. I should get back. Left Tyler with a neighbor, and I've got 3 cars waiting at the shop. As they prepared to leave, Rebecca felt a strange reluctance. Their worlds were impossibly different, yet something about Nathan's presence made her feel more herself than she had in years. I'd like to see you again, she said, surprising herself with her directness. Nathan studied her face, his expression unreadable. Are you sure about that? I'm not exactly in your social circle, Rebecca. Maybe that's exactly why I'm sure. He smiled, then a genuine smile that reached his eyes. All right then, but next time I choose the place. As they parted ways outside the cafe, Rebecca couldn't help but feel that something significant had shifted in her carefully controlled life. The days that followed weren't marked by grand gestures or lavish gifts, but by simple, genuine moments that felt rare and irreplaceable. Rebecca and Nathan started meeting more frequently, first by coincidence, then by quiet intention. Neither said it aloud, but each encounter pulled them into a rhythm only they seemed to understand. Sometimes it was a short walk, a slow roll, as Rebecca joked through streets where food carts glowed and children danced to street performers. Other days they shared meals on park benches, watching life unfold in all its messy beauty. One evening they passed a young violinist playing under a street lamp, her case nearly empty. Nathan dropped a few bills in and turned to Rebecca. Want to sit for a while? She nodded and they listened in comfortable silence as the music filled the space between them. As the final note faded, Rebecca noticed her hands were clasped in her lap, not out of habit or anxiety, but because she had let her guard down. Every shared moment became a quiet thread in something delicate slowly forming. At a cinnamon bun stall, Nathan reached over and wiped a bit of powdered sugar from the corner of her lip. She froze at first, then laughed loud and free. I used to hate that, she admitted, people touching my face like I couldn't do it myself. But with you, it doesn't feel like that. Like what? He asked, curious. Like pity. He didn't reply, but his eyes said everything. That night, Rebecca opened her sketchbook for the first time in 5 years. Her hands moved with unexpected purpose as she drew Nathan crouched under a streetlight, sleeves rolled up, tools in hand, helping a stranger with a stalled car. She captured the quiet focus in his eyes, the strength in his posture. There was no performance in him, no ego, just care. When she showed him the drawing a few days later, he stared at it for a long time. No one's ever drawn me before, he said, barely above a whisper. Something about his voice, genuine disbelieving, hit her hard. She had been painted, interviewed, followed by cameras, but Nathan had lived in the corners unseen. Then I'm glad I was the first, she said softly. He smiled, small and shy, and handed the drawing back like it was something fragile. Sarah noticed the change in Rebecca immediately. You're humming, she observed one morning as they reviewed the quarterly reports. I don't think I've ever heard you hum. Rebecca hadn't realized she was doing it. And I must be the good numbers. Sarah raised an eyebrow, but didn't press. Instead, she hesitated before adding, Your father called again. He's heard rumors about you seeing someone. He wants to know who. The humming stopped. Rebecca's expression hardened. My personal life is none of his business. Not anymore. That's what I told his assistant, in more professional terms, of course. Rebecca's phone buzzed with a message from Nathan. A photo of Tyler proudly holding up a science project, a model of the solar system, with a note, "The kid wants to know if actual space scientists think his Jupiter is too orange." Something warm spread through her chest. She typed back, "Tell the future astrophysicist that Jupiter looks perfect, but Saturn's rings could use more definition. I know people at NASA if he needs expert consultation." Looking up, she caught Sarah watching her with a knowing smile. Not a word, Rebecca warned, but there was no bite to it. "Wouldn't dream of it, Dr. Chen." The MediLife Charity Gala transformed the Natural History Museum into a glittering showcase of wealth and influence. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over exhibits now serving as backdrops for Silicon Valley billionaires, pharmaceutical executives, and hospital administrators. Rebecca moved through the crowd with practiced ease, her wheelchair, a statement piece in itself, custom designed, sleek, almost invisible, until you looked directly at it, just like she preferred. Dr. Chen, the new neural pathway research is groundbreaking. A neurosurgeon from Johns Hopkins clasped her hand. "If the human trials pan out, you'll revolutionize spinal injury treatment." "That's the goal," Rebecca replied, her professional smile firmly in place. MediLife exists to challenge what medicine considers permanent. She continued her circuit-collecting pledges and commitments, every inch the powerful CEO, but her eyes kept drifting to the entrance. Nathan had agreed to come, though reluctantly. "I don't exactly own a tuxedo," he'd said, "and I won't know a single person there." "You'll know me," she'd countered, "and I've arranged for a suit. Please, I want you there." Now, watching the door, she wondered if she'd asked too much, pushed him too far out of his comfort zone. Then he appeared and her breath caught. The rented tuxedo fit him surprisingly well, emphasizing his broad shoulders and strong frame. He stood hesitantly at the entrance, scanning the room with obvious discomfort. Rebecca moved toward him, aware of heads turning as she crossed the room. The whispers followed. Who was this unknown man? Why was Dr. Chen approaching him personally? "You came," she said, relief evident in her voice. Nathan's tension visibly eased at the sight of her. "Said I would, didn't I?" His eyes took in her emerald gown, the way it draped elegantly around her wheelchair. "You look beautiful." The simple compliment warmed her more than any elaborate flattery. "Thank you for being here. I know it's not your scene." "Understatement of the century," he murmured, eyeing a waiter carrying his champagne flutes on a silver tray. "But I wanted to see you in your element." Rebecca guided him through the crowd, introducing him simply as Nathan Reynolds, a dear friend. She watched his interactions carefully, noting how, despite his discomfort, he spoke to each person with the same direct honesty he'd shown her. When a renowned neurologist began explaining a complex procedure to Nathan, as if speaking to a child, Rebecca prepared to intervene. But Nathan surprised her. "So it's basically like rewiring a circuit board, but with neurons instead of copper," he said, his understanding clear. "The problem is getting the signals to bridge the damaged section without external power, right?" The neurologist blinked, caught off guard. "That's actually a very apt analogy." As the evening progressed, Rebecca was scheduled to give a speech about MediLife's mission. Standing at the podium, she preferred standing for speeches, using braces hidden beneath her gown. She found Nathan's face in the crowd. Something about his presence anchored her. "5 years ago, a drunk driver took my ability to walk," she began, her voice steady. "But what he couldn't take was my ability to envision a different future, not just for myself, but for everyone told their conditions are permanent, their situations hopeless." The room fell silent as she continued, passion evident in every word. "At MediLife, we don't accept limitations as final. We see them as challenges to overcome. Whether it's spinal cord injuries, degenerative neural conditions, or congenital disorders, we believe healing is possible. Not just adaptation, but true healing." Nathan watched her pride evident in his expression. She wasn't just a CEO in that moment. She was a force of nature, a visionary unstoppable. As applause filled the room, Rebecca returned to her wheelchair, emotionally drained but satisfied. The pledges would fund the next phase of research, bringing them closer to treatments that could change lives. She was about to rejoin Nathan when a familiar voice froze her in place. "Impressive speech, Rebecca. Almost believable. Harold Chen, elegant in his custom tuxedo, silver hair perfectly styled, stood before her. Her father's presence was unexpected and unwelcome. "Father, I wasn't aware you were on the guest list." Harold's smile didn't reach his eyes. Major donors rarely need invitations. His gaze shifted to Nathan, who was approaching cautiously, sensing the tension. "And who is this, your caretaker?" The deliberate insult hung in the air. Rebecca felt heat rise to her face, but before she could respond, Nathan reached them. "Nathan Reynolds," he said, extending his hand with calm confidence. "Friend of Rebecca's." Harold ignored the outstretched hand, eyes cold. "Friend, I see." He turned back to Rebecca. "A word in private, daughter, to..." Rebecca glanced at Nathan, who nodded slightly. "I'll get us some drinks," he said, understanding her need to handle this alone. Harold led Rebecca to a quiet alcove near an ancient Egyptian exhibit, the stone pharaoh's impassive face watching their confrontation. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Harold's voice was low, controlled, but filled with disapproval. "Bringing a mechanic to an event with your investors and colleagues, is this some kind of rebellion?" Rebecca's fingers tightened on the arms of her wheelchair. "How do you know he's a mechanic?" "Please, I made inquiries the moment I heard you were seeing someone." Nathan Reynolds' high school education, abandoned a scholarship to raise his sister's illegitimate child, works at Reynolds Auto Repair, lives in a two-bedroom apartment above the garage. Harold's dismissive tone made each fact sound like a criminal offense. "Is this the company you choose to keep now?" "The company I choose to keep is no longer your concern," Rebecca replied, her voice steady despite her anger. "You made that clear when you tried to take MediLife from me after the accident." Harold's expression hardened. "I was protecting the family legacy. You were in no condition to run a company, and yet here I am 5 years later with MediLife outperforming Chen Pharmaceuticals in both innovation and market growth." Rebecca leaned forward slightly. "My personal life is none of your business. Not anymore. He doesn't belong in your world, Rebecca. He's using you. For what, my sparkling personality? Because he hasn't asked for money connections or anything else." She held her father's gaze. "Did it ever occur to you that he might just enjoy my company?" Harold's laugh was cold. "Enjoy your company or enjoy the novelty of dating a billionaire in a wheelchair? Men like him have simple motivations." "Men like him?" Rebecca's voice rose slightly. "You mean men who give up their future to raise a child that isn't theirs? Men who help strangers without expecting anything in return? Or do you mean men who don't measure a person's worth by their ability to walk or the size of their bank account?" Her father's expression flickered with something like surprise before hardening again. "This infatuation will pass. And when it does, I hope you'll remember where you come from." "I know exactly where I come from," Rebecca replied. "I'm just no longer limited by it." Harold stared at her for a long moment, then straightened his already perfect tie. "We'll discuss this another time, when you're thinking more clearly." He turned to leave, then paused. "Your mother would be disappointed to see you throw yourself away like this." The mention of her mother, gone 3 years now after a rapid decline following Rebecca's accident, was a deliberate wound. Rebecca felt it cut deep but refused to show it. "My mother taught me to recognize genuine kindness when I see it," she said quietly. "That's something you never understood about her either." Harold's jaw tightened, but he left without another word, cutting through the crowd with practiced efficiency. Nathan returned, two champagne flutes in hand. One look at Rebecca's face told him everything. "That bad. Worse," she admitted, taking the offered glass and drinking deeply. "He had you investigated." Nathan's expression darkened. "I'm not surprised. Men like him need to control everything around them." "I'm sorry, you didn't sign up for this." Nathan crouched beside her wheelchair, bringing his eyes level with hers. In that moment, with hundreds of influential people milling around them, and he created a private space just for them. "Listen to me, Rebecca. I repair engines for a living. I can handle a little heat from your father." His hand found hers warm and steady. "The question is, can you? Because this won't be the last time he interferes." Rebecca looked into Nathan's eyes, seeing the genuine concern there. "I've been handling my father since I was old enough to talk. I'm not about to stop now." His smile returned slow and sure. "Then we're good. Now want to explain to me why there's a dinosaur wearing a bow tie in the next room?" The tension broke as Rebecca laughed, grateful for his ability to bring her back to the present moment. That would be Reginald, the museum's mascot. Apparently, he dresses for special occasions. As they rejoined the gala, Rebecca was acutely aware of the eyes following them, curious, judgmental, speculative. For the first time in her carefully managed public life, she didn't care what anyone thought. For tonight, at least, she was simply a woman enjoying an evening with a man who really saw her wheelchair and all. The following week, Rebecca sat in her office reviewing the latest test results from the Neural Pathway Stimulation Project. The data showed small but significant improvements in signal transmission across damaged spinal tissue. A knock at her door interrupted her concentration. Sarah entered, her expression unusually hesitant. "The board is requesting an emergency meeting," she said. "Something about concerns regarding the company direction and leadership image." Rebecca set down her tablet, understanding immediately. "My father's been busy." "It seems that way. 3 board members specifically mentioned your recent personal associations as cause for concern." "Meaning Nathan," Sarah nodded. "They're questioning whether your personal life is affecting your judgment, or more accurately, whether your condition is making you vulnerable to influence." The implication was clear and infuriating. Rebecca's grip tightened on her armrest. "Schedule a meeting. Tomorrow morning. And Sarah, pull every performance metric we have: stock value research, milestones, investor, confidence, ratings. Everything." After Sarah left, Rebecca stared out at the city skyline, anger building inside her. 5 years of proving herself, of exceeding every expectation, of building MetaLife into a powerhouse. And still her judgment was questioned because of who she chose to spend time with. Her phone buzzed with a message from Nathan. "Tyler's science project won first place. He says it's because a real scientist helped him with Saturn's rings. Thanks for that." Attached was a photo of Tyler beaming beside his solar system blue ribbon, proudly displayed. The simple joy in the image contrasted sharply with the corporate politics swirling around her. Without overthinking, she called Nathan. "Hey, bum." His voice came through warm and familiar. "Just saw the news about MediLife's stock jump. Congratulations. And the board is meeting tomorrow to discuss whether my personal life, specifically you, is affecting my leadership." A pause. "Your father's work." "Almost certainly." Another pause. "What do you need from me?" "Should I step back for a while?" The question was genuine, selfless, putting her needs above his own feelings. It only confirmed what she already knew. "No," she said firmly. "I need you to come to dinner tonight. My place. Bring Tyler. I think it's time I met him properly." That evening, Rebecca's penthouse filled with something it had rarely known: laughter. Tyler, initially shy about the wheelchair, quickly warmed up when Rebecca showed him her collection of space books and the telescope on her balcony. "Can we really see Saturn's rings with this?" Tyler asked, eyes wide with wonder. "On clear nights," Rebecca confirmed. "Maybe not as detailed as your model, but definitely visible." Nathan watched them from the kitchen doorway, something warm spreading in his chest. Rebecca spoke to Tyler not as a child, but as a curious mind deserving of real answers. She showed him her sketches, explained simplified versions of her research, and listened intently to his 88-year-old theories about space travel. Later, after Tyler had fallen asleep on her designer sofa, Rebecca and Nathan sat on the balcony, city lights twinkling below them. "He's amazing," she said softly. "You've done an incredible job with him." Nathan's gaze lingered on the sleeping boy. "He makes it easy, has this brightness to him, even after everything." He turned to Rebecca. "He likes you, a lot. The feeling is mutual." She hesitated, then continued. "Tomorrow I have to convince the board that my personal life isn't affecting my professional judgment." "And is it?" Nathan asked, direct as always. Rebecca considered the question honestly. "Yes, but not how they think. I'm happier, more focused. For the first time since the accident, I'm living, not just surviving." He reached for her hand, his calloused fingers intertwining with hers. "Whatever happens tomorrow, know that Tyler and I are in your corner. Even if it means dealing with more of my father's interference." Nathan's expression grew serious. "Rebecca, I repair cars because I understand how they work. Every problem has a solution if you're patient enough to find it. Your father is just another problem to solve." She laughed softly. "That might be the most optimistic take on Harold Chen I've ever heard." "I'm serious," he insisted. You built a company from nothing after your accident. You're redefining what's possible in neural regeneration. If anyone can handle one stubborn old man, it's you. His faith in her was unwavering, based not on pity or obligation, but on genuine admiration. As they sat together under the stars, Tyler sleeping peacefully inside, Rebecca felt a sense of belonging she'd almost forgotten was possible. Tomorrow would bring challenges. But tonight, she had this moment of perfect understanding with a man who saw her strength rather than her limitations. The boardroom fell silent as Rebecca finished presenting the quarterly results. The numbers spoke for themselves: stock up 17%, 3 new patents, filed clinical trials ahead of schedule, and investor confidence at an all-time high. These results, she concluded, wheelchair positioned at the head of the table, reflect not just MediLife's growth, but our expanding vision. Any questions about our direction or leadership should be answered by the data in front of you. James Whitmore, the longest-serving board member and her father's closest ally, cleared his throat. The numbers are impressive, Dr. Chen. No one disputes that. Our concerns lie elsewhere. You mean my personal life, Rebecca stated flatly. Your associations have raised questions. MediLife's public image is tied to yours. Investors and partners expect a certain level of discretion. Rebecca's expression remained professional, betraying none of the anger simmering beneath. Discretion, an interesting choice of words, Mr. Whitmore. Are you suggesting that my spending time with a small business owner is somehow indiscreet? Another board member, Elizabeth Patel, interjected. Rebecca, we're concerned that given your condition, you might be vulnerable to influences. This relationship seems sudden and frankly unusual given your different backgrounds. My condition, Rebecca repeated the word sharp. 5 years ago, this board tried to remove me as CEO because of my condition. You claimed I couldn't handle the stress, that the company needed able-bodied leadership. Her gaze swept the room. I proved you wrong then. MediLife has thrived under my leadership, not despite my injury, but because of the perspective it gives me. She wheeled herself around the table, slowly making eye contact with each member. As for my personal relationships, they are exactly on that personal. Nathan Reynolds is a hardworking, ethical man who brings voice and balance to my life. If that somehow threatens you or our investors, perhaps the problem lies not with my judgment, but with your prejudices. Whitmore's face reddened. Your father has expressed serious concerns. My father, Rebecca cut in, has no official role at MediLife, no stake in our company, and therefore no say in how I run it or live my life. If he wants to discuss my personal choices, he can do so directly, not through proxies on my board. The room fell silent again, the tension palpable. Finally, Dr. Maya Rodriguez, head of research and development, spoke up. As the person who works most closely with Rebecca on our core projects, I can state unequivocally that her focus and judgment have never been sharper. The breakthroughs we're seeing in the lab coincide exactly with this period you're all so concerned about. She fixed Whitmore with a steady gaze. Perhaps instead of questioning her personal happiness, we should be encouraging it. Rebecca felt a surge of gratitude toward her colleague. Thank you, Maya. The vote that followed was decisive, 7-2, in favor of maintaining full confidence in Rebecca's leadership, with only Whitmore and one other board member dissenting. As the meeting adjourned, Rebecca remained at the table, mentally exhausted but victorious. Her phone buzzed with a message from Nathan. No matter what happened in there, remember, you've already won the bigger battle. She smiled, tucking the phone away. He was right. The board meeting was just one skirmish in a longer war, a war for the right to be seen as a whole person, not defined by her wheelchair or her family name. And with Nathan beside her, that war suddenly felt winnable. Later that evening, Rebecca and Nathan strolled through a small neighborhood festival. The string lights crisscrossed overhead, casting a warm glow over food vendors and local artisans. Children ran with balloon animals, and an elderly couple swayed to a jazz quartet's gentle melody. I hear the board meeting went well, Nathan said, walking beside her wheelchair at an easy pace. News travels fast. Sarah called. She thought I should know. Rebecca smiled. Of course she did. She likes you, you know. Says you're refreshingly straightforward. High praise from someone who manages your life. They stopped at a food stall for hot chocolate the autumn evening, bringing a chill to the air. As they continued through the festival, Rebecca noticed Nathan seemed distracted, his answers shorter than usual. "What's wrong?" she finally asked. "You've been somewhere else all evening." Nathan hesitated, then guided them to a quieter corner near a stone fountain. "I got a call today. From your father." Rebecca stiffened. "What? How did he even get your number?" "Man has resources," Nathan said with a humorless laugh. "He wants to meet. Just him and me." "Absolutely not. Whatever he's planning—" "I already agreed," Nathan interrupted gently. "Tomorrow morning." Rebecca stared at him, disbelief mixing with concern. "Why would you do that?" Nathan reached for her hand, his expression serious. "Because this needs to end. The board meetings, the investigations, the pressure on you. If he wants to size me up, let him. I have nothing to hide. You don't know my father? He doesn't fight fair. I'm not going to fight at all." Nathan's voice was calm, certain. "I'm just going to talk to him, man to man. Make him understand I'm not going anywhere unless you want me to." Rebecca's throat tightened with emotion. No one had ever stood up to Harold Chen on her behalf before. Most people, even those she considered friends, carefully avoided crossing the powerful businessman. "I'm scared for you," she admitted quietly. "Not because I think you can't handle yourself, but because I know what he's capable of." Nathan smiled, a determined glint in his eyes. "I fix broken things for a living, Rebecca, including broken situations. Trust me." Before she could respond, he pulled something from his jacket pocket. "I got you something." She tilted her head curiously as he held out a small, hand-tied bouquet of wildflowers. Simple, a little uneven, a little sun-wilted, but real. Tucked between the stems was a folded piece of notebook paper. Rebecca unfolded it, her hands trembling slightly. In Nathan's rough handwriting were the words, "You deserve to be seen as you not as a chair." She didn't speak. The tears came quietly, unexpectedly. For years she'd been admired, obeyed, even feared, but not seen. People noticed the CEO, the headlines, the wheelchair. Nathan saw Rebecca. Not her company, not her past, not her limitations, just her. When she looked up, Nathan's face was unreadable, unsure if he'd said too much. But she didn't let him wonder for long. "That's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever said to me," she whispered. He nodded, voice soft. "It's the truth." As the festival lights twinkled above them and the distant music played, Rebecca leaned her head gently on Nathan's shoulder. She didn't know where this was going. She didn't know how long it would last with her father's opposition and their different worlds constantly pulling at them. But for the first time in years, her heart felt full, and the world once cold and sharp began to feel warm again. Nathan straightened his worn leather jacket as he stepped into the gleaming lobby of the Chen Pharmaceuticals headquarters. Marble floors stretched beneath his work boots, reflecting the morning light that streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. A massive logo dominated the far wall, a stark contrast to the modest sign hanging above his garage. The receptionist glanced up, her practiced smile faltering slightly as she took in his appearance. "Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Chen is expecting you on the 40th floor." The elevator ride gave Nathan time to consider his approach. Harold Chen hadn't built a pharmaceutical empire by being easily persuaded or intimidated. This meeting would require something beyond his usual straightforward manner. Harold's office matched the man imposing, meticulously arranged with views commanding the entire city. The older man stood as Nathan entered his tailored suit, impeccable silver hair, precisely styled. His handshake was firm, calculated. "Mr. Reynolds, thank you for accepting my invitation." Nathan met his gaze directly. "Wasn't exactly an invitation, but I'm here." Harold gestured to a chair across from his desk. "I appreciate directness. It saves time." He returned to his seat, studying Nathan with clinical detachment. "I'll be equally direct. What exactly are your intentions regarding my daughter?" "My intentions?" Nathan's eyebrows rose. "We're not in the 1950s, Mr. Chen. Rebecca makes her own decisions." "Indeed she does, often impulsively, especially since the accident." Harold leaned forward. "Rebecca has always been brilliant but idealistic. The accident changed her, made her vulnerable in ways she doesn't recognize." Nathan felt a flare of anger but kept his voice level. "The only vulnerability I've seen is her fear that people will never see beyond her wheelchair. You included." Harold's expression hardened. "You know nothing about our relationship." "I know you tried to take her company when she was at her lowest. I know you still send board members to question her judgment. Nathan held the older man's gaze. And I know she rebuilt her life anyway without your help. A tense silence stretched between them. Harold finally broke it, his voice deceptively casual. I had you investigated, of course. Of course you did. High school education, abandoned a promising scholarship, working class background. Harold ticked off the points like a prosecutor building a case. Nothing in your history suggests you could provide the kind of life Rebecca requires. Nathan leaned forward. And what kind of life is that? Security, status, access to the best medical care, a partner who understands her world. Harold's eyes narrowed. Not someone who will drag her down to wherever it is you live. Above my garage, 2 bedrooms. Tyler has dinosaur stickers on his door. Nathan's voice remained steady, and Rebecca seems to like it just fine. Harold's laugh was cold. Novelty, the thrill of slumming it with the working class. It will pass. Is that what happened with her mother? Just a passing phase? The question landed like a physical blow. Harold's composure cracked, revealing something raw beneath. You know nothing about my wife. I know Rebecca has her eyes. I've seen the photos. Nathan softened his tone. And I know sometimes people from different worlds find something in each other that money can't buy. Harold stood abruptly, moving to the window. My wife was different. Special. His reflection in the glass looked suddenly older, the hard edges softening with memory. Rebecca doesn't remember how it was before the money, before the success. Eleanor never forgot. She kept me human. Nathan remained silent, sensing the rare moment of vulnerability. After Rebecca's accident, Eleanor was devastated. She blamed me for not being there, for always putting business first. Harold's voice grew quieter. She was right, of course. I was in Tokyo, closing a deal when it happened. He turned back to Nathan, mask firmly back in place. Eleanor died believing I'd failed our daughter. Perhaps she was right about that too. Nathan considered his next words carefully. You haven't failed her yet. You could still be the father she needs instead of the businessman she resents. Harold's expression cooled again. Touching advice from someone who's known my daughter for what, a month. I've spent a lifetime building a legacy for Rebecca. Everything I've done, the board maneuvers, the investigations, has been to protect her. From what being happy with someone who sees her as a whole person. From being taken advantage of by opportunists who see a vulnerable woman with a fortune. Nathan stood, patience wearing thin. If I wanted her money, it'd have asked for it by now. My garage needs a new hydraulic lift. Tyler needs braces. I'm behind on rent. Would have been easier than spending weeks getting to know her, meeting her friends, facing down her board. His voice rose slightly. I'm here because when Rebecca laughs, it feels like something broken in the world gets fixed. I'm here because she draws pictures of people helping strangers and sees beauty where others see only function. I'm here because she makes me better, and I hope I do the same for her. Harold studied him, expression unreadable. Poetic, but meaningless in the real world. The real world is where I live, Mr. Chen. Every day fixing what's broken with my hands, raising a boy who lost his mother, making ends meet without a safety net. Nathan moved toward the door. If you ever decide to visit that world, you might understand what your daughter sees in it. Harold's voice stopped him. My offer is $500,000. Nathan turned slowly. Excuse me. To end this relationship immediately and permanently. $500,000. Enough to pay off any debts, send your nephew to college, perhaps even finish your own education. Harold's tone was matter-of-fact, as if discussing a routine business transaction. A reasonable solution for everyone. The shock of the offer rendered Nathan momentarily speechless. When he found his voice, it was dangerously quiet. You think you can buy me off? I think I'm offering you a chance to improve your life without the complication of a relationship that has no future. Harold returned to his desk, writing a figure on a slip of paper. Consider it carefully. This is a one-time offer. Nathan didn't look at the paper. You know what the difference is between us, Mr. Chen? I fix broken machines. You break people and call it business. He turned to leave. Rebecca deserves better than both of us, but at least I'm trying to be worthy of her. Harold's voice hardened. This isn't over, Mr. Reynolds. Nathan paused at the door. On that, we agree. The elevator descended each floor, taking Nathan further from Harold's world and closer to his own. His hands trembled slightly with anger as he stepped into the morning sunshine, Harold's offer echoing in his mind. $500,000, a life-changing amount for him and Tyler. And all it would cost was his integrity and Rebecca's trust. His phone buzzed with a message from her. How did it go? Are you okay? Nathan stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. The gap between their worlds had never felt wider. Rebecca waited anxiously in her office, checking her phone every few minutes. Nathan's meeting with her father had ended hours ago, but his only response to her messages had been brief. Need some time to think. Talk tonight. The words sent a chill through her. What had her father said? What had he done? Sarah entered with a stack of reports. The neural interface team needs your sign-off on the new testing protocols. She hesitated, noting Rebecca's distraction. Everything okay? Nathan met with my father this morning. Sarah winced. And you haven't heard from him since? Just a text saying he needs time to think. Rebecca's fingers drummed against her armrest. My father probably offered him money to disappear. Would Nathan take it? The question hung in the air. A month ago, Rebecca would have said no without hesitation. But now, remembering the past due notices in Nathan's apartment, Tyler's needs the struggling garage, doubt crept in. I don't know, she admitted, and that terrifies me. The board meeting dragged through the afternoon, Rebecca only half present as they discussed quarterly projections and research timelines. When her phone finally buzzed, she excused herself immediately. Nathan's message was simple. Can we meet at the park, the one with the chess tables? The park was halfway between their worlds, not the exclusive gardens near her penthouse, nor the neighborhood playground by his garage, but neutral ground where they'd spent several evenings watching amateur chess players battle under the trees. Rebecca arrived first, positioning her wheelchair near their usual bench. The autumn air carried the scent of fallen leaves and distant rain. When Nathan appeared on the path, his expression was unreadable. Hands thrust deep in his pockets. Your father offered me $500,000 to walk away. He delivered the words without preamble, sitting heavily on the bench beside her. Rebecca closed her eyes briefly. I'm so sorry. Don't be. It wasn't your fault. What did you tell him? Nathan turned to face her, his eyes searching hers. I said no, obviously. Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by shame for having doubted him even momentarily. There would have been no judgment if you'd considered it. That's life-changing money. It wouldn't have changed my life for the better. His voice softened. Not if it meant losing you. Rebecca reached for his hand, finding it clenched tight. What else did he say to you? That I couldn't provide the life you need, that this is just a phase for you. Nathan's jaw tightened. He had me investigated, Rebecca. Knows everything, where I live, my finances, Tyler's situation. Used it all like ammunition. That sounds like him. She squeezed his hand. But he doesn't know me anymore. Hasn't since before the accident. Nathan nodded, but something in his expression remained troubled. It made me think, though, about what I can actually offer you. About whether he might be right about some things. Nathan, let me finish, please. He drew a deep breath. Your world and mine couldn't be more different. You live in a penthouse. I live above a garage. You run board meetings. I run diagnostics on engines. Your idea of a crisis is a stock dip. Mine is Tyler needing new shoes I can't afford. Rebecca started to protest, but he continued. And the thing is, I'm proud of my life. I've built something decent from a bad situation. I take care of Tyler. I'm good at what I do. I sleep well at night, knowing I've never compromised who I am. His eyes met hers, intense and honest. But your father made me question whether that's enough for someone like you. Not just now when everything is new and exciting, but long-term. Rebecca felt a flicker of anger. My father doesn't get to decide what's enough for me. No, he doesn't. But that doesn't mean the question isn't valid. Nathan gestured to her wheelchair. You need certain accommodations, medical care, security, things that cost money. My money situation is not great. I had to get an advance on a repair job just to buy Tyler's science project supplies. I have money, Nathan, more than I could spend in several lifetimes. And that's part of the problem. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. I was raised to provide, to take care of my own. The idea of living off someone else's fortune goes against everything I believe in. Rebecca hadn't considered this perspective, how her wealth might feel to someone raised with Nathan's values. This isn't about keeping score or traditional gender roles. It's about partnership. I know, but partnerships should be equal, and we're starting from completely different places. Nathan's voice grew quieter. I just don't want to wake up one day and realize you resent me for not being able to give you the life you deserve, or that I resent you for making me feel less than I am. The chess players nearby reset their pieces, beginning a new game. Rebecca watched them, buying time to formulate her thoughts. When I woke up in the hospital and they told me I would never walk again, do you know what scared me most? She didn't wait for his answer. Not the wheelchair, not the physical limitations. It was the idea that I would never be seen as just Rebecca again. That I would always be the poor CEO in the wheelchair, the inspiring cripple, the broken daughter. She turned to face him fully. And then you walked into that restaurant and saw me, not the chair, not the company, just me. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How precious? Her voice cracked slightly. I don't care about the money or the lifestyle differences. I care that when you look at me, you see a whole person. Nathan's expression softened, but the worry remained. I want to be the man you deserve. I'm just not sure I can be. You already are. Rebecca took his hand again. The rest is just details that we can figure out together. The tension between them eased but didn't disappear entirely. Some questions had no easy answers, and Harold's interference had planted seeds of doubt that would take time to uproot. As evening fell, they parted with a promise to meet the following day. Nathan had a late repair job, and Rebecca had reports to review before morning. The distance between their worlds felt temporarily bridged, but not erased. Neither noticed the black sedan parked across from the park, nor the man inside documenting their conversation with a telephoto lens. The pressure began subtly. First, one of Nathan's regular customers canceled a major restoration project with no explanation. Then another. Within a week, half his scheduled repairs had disappeared, leaving the garage calendar ominously empty. I don't get it, Marco said, scratching his head as he stared at the appointment book. Johnson's Buick has been coming here for 15 years. Now suddenly he's taking his business across town. Nathan had his suspicions but kept them to himself. Instead, he focused on the work they still had, staying late to finish jobs that would normally be spread across several mechanics. The first real evidence came when Tyler returned from school, eyes downcast, shoulders slumped. What's wrong, buddy? Nathan crouched to meet his nephew's gaze, concerned by the unusual quietness. Tyler hesitated, clutching his backpack. Straps. Am I in trouble because of Rebecca? Nathan's chest tightened. What? No, why would you think that? Bobby said his dad couldn't bring their car to the garage anymore because you're dating someone important. Tyler's voice trembled slightly. He said it was my fault because I told everyone about going to her penthouse and seeing the telescope. Nathan pulled Tyler into a hug, anger building inside him. Harold Chen was going after his livelihood that he could handle. But involving Tyler crossed a line. You did nothing wrong, nothing. Nathan kept his voice gentle despite his rage. Some grown-ups make stupid decisions for stupid reasons. It has nothing to do with you or Rebecca. That night after Tyler was asleep, Nathan called the one person who might understand his situation. My customers are disappearing. Someone's pressuring them to take their business elsewhere. Rebecca's sharp intake of breath confirmed his suspicions. My father. Has to be. Too coordinated to be coincidence. Nathan paced the small living room, keeping his voice low. He can't buy me off, so he's trying to starve me out. I'll talk to him. No. Nathan's response was immediate. That's exactly what he wants, to create problems only he can solve, to make you dependent on him again. Then what do we do? Nathan glanced toward Tyler's bedroom door. I don't know yet, but I won't let him use my nephew as leverage. That's a line he shouldn't have crossed. The following days brought new pressures. The landlord suddenly found issues with the garage lease. The bank called about irregularities with Nathan's modest business loan. His supplier couldn't deliver parts on their usual schedule. Harold Chen was methodically dismantling Nathan's life without ever showing his hand. Despite his determination to handle the situation himself, Nathan found his resources, financial and emotional, stretched to breaking. Pride warred with practicality as the garage's income dwindled and Tyler's needs remained constant. Rebecca noticed the strain immediately when they met for dinner at his apartment. Nathan's usual warmth was muted, his focus fragmented as he checked his phone repeatedly for messages from potential customers or the bank. This has gone far enough. Rebecca set down her fork, her patience exhausted. My father is systematically attacking your business. Let me help. Nathan's jaw tightened. With what money? That's exactly what he expects for me to come begging to you, proving his point that I can't provide for myself or Tyler. This isn't about pride, Nathan. It's about fighting back against unfair tactics. Easy to say when you have unlimited resources. The words came out harsher than intended, tinged with the stress of sleepless nights and mounting bills. Rebecca recoiled slightly, hurt flashing across her face. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Nathan ran a hand over his face, immediately regretting his tone. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Yes, you did, at least partly. Rebecca's voice was quiet but firm. There's truth in it, and we need to acknowledge that. My resources are different from yours. That's just reality. Tyler's voice interrupted them from the doorway. Are you guys fighting about me? Both adults turned startled by the boy's presence. Nathan moved quickly to reassure him. Nobody, not about you. Grown-up stuff. About your job, Bobby's dad said your garage might close. Tyler's eyes filled with worry. Will we have to move change schools again? The innocent questions pierced Nathan's heart. He'd promised Tyler stability after the kicks of his early years with Amber. Now that promise was in jeopardy. No one's moving anywhere. Rebecca's voice was gentle but certain. Your uncle's garage is going to be fine. Nathan shot her a warning look, not wanting to make promises they couldn't keep. But Rebecca continued, addressing Tyler directly. Sometimes grown-ups forget what's really important because they're too busy worrying about who's right or who's stronger. She glanced at Nathan. I think that's happening right now with some people in our lives. Tyler considered this his 8-year-old wisdom cutting through the adult complexities. If you love someone, why does it matter who's stronger or who has more stuff? The simple question hung in the air between them, laying bare the absurdity of the power struggles and pride that had complicated their relationship. It doesn't, Nathan admitted, the fight draining out of him. You're right, Tyler. It doesn't matter at all. After Tyler returned to his homework, Nathan and Rebecca sat in silence, the truth of the child's perspective settling between them. I can't let my pride hurt him, Nathan finally said. He's been through too much already. Rebecca reached across the table. Then let's fight this together. Not with my money or your stubbornness, but with something my father doesn't expect: unity. For the first time in days, Nathan felt a glimmer of hope. What did you have in mind? Rebecca's smile held a hint of her father's strategic cunning. Harold Chen understands power and leverage. Let's show him we have both. The plan they formulated that night was bold, requiring both Nathan's practical skills and Rebecca's business acumen. Instead of hiding from Harold's interference, they would confront it directly, not through confrontation, but by creating something Harold couldn't easily dismantle. The following week brought unexpected activity to Reynolds Auto Repair. Customers who had vanished suddenly returned, apologetic and vague about their temporary absence. New clients appeared, many driving high-end vehicles rarely seen in the neighborhood. Marco watched in confusion as the appointment book filled again. What's happening? Last week we were nearly bankrupt, now we're turning people away. Nathan continued working under the hood of a Tesla, a small smile playing at his lips. Let's just say we have a new business strategy. The strategy, as it turned out, was a partnership. Rebecca had leveraged her connections with MediLife's executives, board members, and investors, many of whom owned luxury vehicles requiring specialized care. She hadn't offered money directly, respecting Nathan's pride, but instead created opportunity through her network. Nathan, for his part, had swallowed enough pride to accept this form of help, recognizing it as a genuine partnership rather than charity. The garage began to develop a reputation for excellent work on high-end vehicles, creating a niche that Harold's influence couldn't easily undermine. It was a temporary solution, but it bought them time to develop something more permanent. Rebecca, meanwhile, faced her own pressures. Rumors circulated among investors about her distracted leadership and questionable associations. Harold's influence was more subtle in her world, but equally determined. The true test came unexpectedly. After a particularly grueling board meeting where she defended her research priorities against Harold-influenced opposition, Rebecca returned to her office to find Sarah waiting with an unusual expression. "What is it?" Rebecca asked, noting the tablet clutched tightly in her assistant's hands. Sarah hesitated, then turned the screen toward her. "It just posted on several financial news sites. I thought you should see it immediately." The headline struck like a physical blow. MediLife CEO's boyfriend accepts payout from father relationship exposed as fraud. Below it, a grainy photo showed Nathan accepting what appeared to be an envelope from Harold Chen, their expressions serious, the meeting clearly private. Rebecca's hands trembled as she scrolled through the article, reading accusations that Nathan had negotiated a settlement with Harold while maintaining his relationship with her as cover. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Nathan refused my father's offer. He told me immediately." Sarah's expression remained troubled. "The photo is manipulated or misrepresented." Rebecca's voice hardened with certainty. "Get our legal team on this now. I want a retraction within the hour." But even as she issued the command, doubt crept into the edges of her mind. The photo looked real. The meeting had occurred, and Nathan had been increasingly distant lately, preoccupied with the garage's financial troubles. Her phone buzzed with a message from Nathan. "Have you seen it? It's not what it looks like. Need to talk immediately." Rebecca stared at the screen, logic warring with emotion. Nathan wouldn't betray her, not after everything they'd shared, everything they'd built. But her father's influence was pervasive, his resources nearly unlimited. What if the pressure had simply become too much? She typed back. "My office, 1 hour." The meeting was tense, Nathan pacing the limited space where her wheelchair didn't reach, his agitation palpable. "The photo is real, but the story is complete fiction," he explained, hands gesturing emphatically. "Your father called me back to his office 3 days ago, said he wanted to discuss a compromise. When I got there, he handed me an envelope, said it contained information I should see before continuing our relationship." Rebecca watched him closely, searching for any sign of deception. "What was in it?" Nathan stopped pacing, his expression grim. "Medical records. Your medical records, Rebecca. Details about your condition that you haven't shared with me." The blood drained from her face. "He had no right." "No, he didn't. I told him so and left the envelope on his desk." Nathan crouched beside her wheelchair, eyes pleading for understanding. "I would never accept money from him. Never. You have to believe that." Rebecca wanted to believe him instantly, completely, but years of betrayals and disappointments had built walls around her trust. The article said the envelope contained a check, that you've been meeting with him regularly. "It's a lie," Nathan's voice cracked with frustration. "Your father is playing both sides, trying to make you doubt me while pressuring me to leave you. He knows direct tactics won't work anymore, so he's getting more creative." The logic made sense, aligning with Harold's manipulative patterns. Still, the seed of doubt had been planted, taking root in vulnerable soil. "I need some time," Rebecca said finally. "Not because I don't trust you, but because I need to handle this professionally. The article affects MediLife, not just me personally." Nathan nodded slowly, understanding but clearly hurt. "I get it. Do what you need to do." He moved toward the door, then turned back. "Just remember who's been honest with you from the beginning and who's been manipulating everyone around you for years." After he left, Rebecca sat motionless, mind racing through possibilities and implications. The article's timing was suspicious, coming just as their partnership strategy was beginning to neutralize Harold's business interference. The photo could easily have been misrepresented. The anonymous sources quoted were likely Harold's creations. Logic pointed to her father's manipulation, but emotion, the fear of being used, of being seen as just a wealthy woman in a wheelchair, clouded her judgment. Sarah interrupted her thoughts. "The legal team has drafted a response. They need your approval before sending it to the outlets." Rebecca skimmed the document, a standard denial, threats of legal action, demands for retraction. It felt hollow, insufficient against the damage already spreading through financial circles and social media. "Tell them to hold off," she said suddenly. "I need to handle this differently." Sarah looked concerned. "The longer we wait, the more the story spreads." "I know, but the usual corporate response won't fix this." Rebecca's mind cleared, determination replacing doubt. "My father wants a public relations war. Let's give him one he's not expecting." While Rebecca formulated her countermove, Nathan faced his own crisis. The garage phone rang constantly, not with customers, but with reporters seeking comment on his financial arrangement with Harold Chen. Marco and the other mechanics cast sidelong glances, clearly wondering if their suddenly stable employment situation came with hidden costs. Worst of all, Tyler returned from school in tears, having been taunted about the news story some parents had discussed at pickup. "They said you took money to pretend to like Rebecca." Tyler sobbed, his small shoulders shaking. "That's not true, right? You wouldn't do that." Nathan gathered his nephew, close rage and heartbreak warring within him. "Never. I care about Rebecca because she's amazing and kind and sees the good in people, not for any other reason." Tyler looked up, eyes still wet. "Then why is everyone saying those things?" "Because sometimes adults play very ugly games when they don't get their way." Nathan wiped the boy's tears gently. "Rebecca's father doesn't want us to be together, so he's telling lies to try to keep us apart." Tyler considered this his natural sense of justice offended. "That's really mean and stupid. If he was nice, maybe you would all be friends." The simple wisdom drew a sad smile from Nathan. "You're right, buddy. It is stupid. But grown-ups do stupid things sometimes, especially when they're scared." "What's he scared of?" Nathan paused, considering the question seriously. "Losing control, I think. Losing his daughter. Being wrong." Tyler nodded sagely. "Ms. Wilson says fear makes people do crazy things, like when Bobby pushed me because he was scared I'd finish the math test first." The comparison between Harold Chen's elaborate manipulations and playground politics struck Nathan as surprisingly apt. "Your Ms. Wilson is a smart lady." As Tyler went to change clothes, Nathan checked his phone. No messages from Rebecca since their meeting. The silence worried him more than any accusation. Was she actually considering the possibility that he'd betrayed her after everything they'd shared? The thought that Harold might succeed in driving them apart through sheer persistence filled him with cold dread. He had weathered the business interference, the financial pressure, even the public humiliation. But losing Rebecca, having her believe he had used her, might be a blow he couldn't recover from. His phone finally buzzed with a message that sent relief flooding through him. "Press conference tomorrow 9 a.m., MediLife headquarters. Be there, trust me." The single word trust carried weight beyond its four letters. Rebecca was asking for his faith during her counterattack, just as he had asked for hers during the media onslaught. Nathan texted back immediately, "I'll be there, always." The night passed slowly, Tyler's innocent questions about adult behavior giving way to restless sleep filled with anxiety dreams. By morning, Nathan felt exhausted but resolute. Whatever Rebecca planned, he would support her completely. When he arrived at MediLife headquarters, the scene outside resembled a media circus. Reporters clustered near the entrance, cameras and microphones ready. Security guards created a path for him, leading him past the curious onlookers and into the building's sleek lobby. Sarah waited for him by the elevators. "She's waiting upstairs, conference room A." "What's the plan?" Nathan asked as they ascended. Sarah's expression revealed nothing. "That's for Rebecca to explain. But if it helps, I think it's brilliant." The conference room buzzed with activity, PR staff adjusting microphones, technicians checking lighting, board members conversing in low, concerned tones. Rebecca sat at the center of it all, wheelchair positioned at the head of the long table, her expression calm but determined. She looked up as Nathan entered, relief visible in her eyes. "You came." "I said I would." He moved to her side, ignoring the curious stares of the MediLife executives. "What are we doing?" Rebecca gestured to the chair beside hers. "Fighting back. My way." She lowered her voice. "I know my father. He expects me to issue denials, threaten lawsuits, follow the corporate crisis playbook. So I'm not going to do any of that." Before Nathan could ask for clarification, Rebecca addressed the room. "It's time, let's begin." The press conference started precisely at 9 a.m., live streamed to financial news networks and social media platforms. Rebecca, poised and professional, thanked the reporters for coming. "You're all here because of a story suggesting impropriety in my personal life." She began, her voice steady. "Specifically allegations that my relationship with Nathan Reynolds involves financial arrangements with my father, Harold Chen." Camera shutters clicked rapidly as she continued. "I could issue the standard denials. I could have my legal team threaten lawsuits. I could hide behind corporate communication strategy. Her gaze swept the room. Instead, I'm going to tell you the truth. Truth not just about these allegations, but about the systematic campaign of interference my father has waged since I began seeing Nathan. Murmurs spread through the assembled reporters as Rebecca detailed Harold's attempts to sabotage Nathan's business, the bribe offer the manipulated photograph. My father believes Nathan isn't appropriate for someone in my position. He believes my judgment is compromised by my disability. Her voice took on an edge. This isn't just a family disagreement. It's about who controls narratives about disabled executives, about what success and leadership look like, about who gets to decide what relationships are suitable for people like me. Nathan watched her with growing admiration as she transformed a personal attack into a broader conversation about autonomy, ability, and power. So let me be perfectly clear, Rebecca continued. Nathan Reynolds did not accept money from my father. Their meeting captured in that misleading photograph was another attempt by Harold Chen to interfere in my personal life, this time by sharing my private medical information without consent. The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. A reporter called out, "Are you planning legal action against your father?" Rebecca's smile was picking but determined. My father and I will resolve our differences privately. But make no mistake, MetaLife remains under my leadership. My judgment is sound, and my personal relationships are my own choice. She turned slightly toward Nathan. As for Mr. Reynolds, he has shown more integrity in the face of enormous pressure than many so-called business leaders I've encountered. Any suggestion that he would compromise his principles for financial gain demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of his character. The press conference continued for another 20 minutes, Rebecca fielding questions with grace and strategic openness. By the end, the narrative had visibly shifted from scandal to story of overcoming interference and standing firm against manipulation. As the cameras finally powered down and reporters dispersed, Nathan leaned close to Rebecca. "That was incredible. You completely changed the conversation." She exhaled slowly, the professional mask slipping to reveal her exhaustion. "It's what my father never expected. He thinks in terms of private maneuvers and backroom deals. Taking everything into the open light removes his advantage. Will it work? Short term, definitely. Long term?" She shrugged slightly. "He'll try something else eventually, but we'll be ready." The board members approached, some offering support, others clearly concerned about the public airing of family conflicts. Rebecca handled each conversation with diplomatic skill, neither apologizing for her actions nor escalating tensions further. When they finally had a moment alone, Nathan took her hand. "I never doubted you would find a way through this, but I've been worried about what it's doing to you constantly fighting these battles." Rebecca squeezed his fingers. "It's exhausting, but worth it." She looked up at him, vulnerability showing through her composed exterior. "Are you still in this with me, even knowing it probably won't get easier anytime soon?" Nathan crouched beside her wheelchair, bringing his eyes level with hers. "I fix broken things for a living. Remember, some projects take longer than others, but I've never walked away from one that matters." As they left the conference room together, both knew that Harold's interference had been countered, but not ended. The path forward remained challenging, filled with obstacles, both public and private. But something fundamental had shifted. They had moved from reactive defense to proactive resistance, from individual struggles to unified strength. The real test, however, still awaited them. For Harold Chen was not a man who accepted defeat easily, and his resources extended far beyond what they had yet encountered. The morning after the press conference, Rebecca woke to her phone buzzing with notifications. News outlets had picked up the story, transforming what could have been a scandal into something entirely different, a compelling narrative about autonomy, ability, and standing up to manipulation. Social media was ablaze with hashtags supporting MediLife and even a few memes mocking Harold's tactics. Sarah had already sent a morning briefing, stock prices stable, investors calling with messages of support, 3 interview requests from major publications. The crisis, it seemed, had become an opportunity. Rebecca set the phone aside and wheeled to the window. The city sprawled before her, painted in morning light. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of peace. Not because the battle with her father was over, she knew better than to believe that, but because facing it openly had stripped away its power. Her phone buzzed again with a message from Nathan. Tyler says the principal announced a special assembly today about respecting differences. Your press conference is having ripple effects. Hope you slept well. We did. A photo followed Tyler asleep on Nathan's couch, curled around a science textbook. The simplicity of the image, an ordinary moment in an extraordinary time, brought tears to her eyes. She replied, "Tell him his scientific expertise is required this weekend. The telescope needs calibration." The subsequent weeks brought unexpected changes. The garage transformed almost overnight with appointments booked solid for 2 months. High-end vehicles lined the lot as executives, doctors, and tech entrepreneurs, many connected to MediLife, discovered Reynolds Auto Repair. Nathan hired 2 additional mechanics and expanded their service offerings. He resisted the urge to move to a larger location, preferring to grow gradually within the community he'd served for years. The garage remained unpretentious, but gained a reputation for exceptional work and straightforward dealings. Tyler thrived in the changing environment, proudly giving impromptu tours to clients waiting for their vehicles. His space knowledge became a running joke among regular customers who brought him astronomy magazines and asked increasingly complex questions just to hear his enthusiastic explanations. On a crisp Saturday afternoon, Rebecca arrived at the garage earlier than expected, finding Nathan and Tyler huddled over the engine of a vintage Aston Martin. Nathan pointed to various components, explaining their function with the same patience he showed adult clients. Tyler absorbed every word, occasionally asking questions that revealed his growing understanding. Rebecca remained by the door, not wanting to interrupt. There was something profoundly moving about watching them together, the gentle way Nathan guided without commanding Tyler's eager determination to learn. "The most important tool isn't in any of these drawers," Nathan was saying, gesturing to his toolbox. "It's patience, understanding how things connect before trying to fix them." Tyler nodded solemnly, like when Bobby broke his robot and just started jamming pieces together. Made it worse. "Exactly, rushing creates new problems. Better to step back, think it through." Rebecca wheeled forward, making her presence known. Both looked up, the twin expressions of delight spreading across their faces. "You're early." Tyler abandoned the engine to rush toward her. "Uncle Nate's teaching me about timing belts. Did you know if they break, the whole engine can get wrecked?" "I did not know that," Rebecca admitted, smiling at Nathan over the boy's head. "Sounds like critical information." Nathan wiped his hands on a shop rag, eyes crinkling with affection. "Might make an engineer of him yet." Later, after the garage closed, they sat in the small apartment above, eating takeout Chinese food, while Tyler described his latest school project, a model of different types of galaxies. The conversation flowed naturally, punctuated by laughter and friendly debates about whether black holes could theoretically be used for space travel. As Nathan cleared the plates, Tyler grew uncharacteristically quiet, pushing rice around his plate. "Something on your mind, buddy?" Nathan asked, returning to the table. Tyler looked up, his expression serious beyond his years. "Are we going to be a family? Like a real one?" The question hung in the air, startling both adults. Nathan recovered first, sitting down beside his nephew. "What makes you ask that?" "Joey at school said his mom's boyfriend moved in, and now they're a family, and you and Rebecca are always together." He turned to Rebecca, eyes earnest. "And you help me with science, and you make Uncle Nate smile more than I've ever seen." Rebecca felt her throat tighten with emotion. She'd considered the future of her relationship with Nathan, of course, but hearing Tyler articulate it so directly as a question about family, about belonging, touched something deeper. "We care about each other very much," she said carefully. "But grown-up relationships sometimes take time to figure out." "Because you're a CEO and Uncle Nate fixes cars?" Tyler asked bluntly. Nathan choked slightly. "Tyler, no, it's a fair question," Rebecca interrupted, meeting Tyler's gaze directly. "Some people might think that matters. But what matters more is how we treat each other, how we support each other's dreams, how we make each other better." Tyler considered this. "So you could be a family even if you live in different places and do different jobs?" "Family isn't about matching," Nathan said quietly. "It's about fitting together even though you're different, like puzzle pieces." The explanation seemed to satisfy Tyler, who nodded and returned to his food. But the question lingered in the air between Nathan and Rebecca, a future taking shape in the space of a child's innocent inquiry. Later, after Tyler had gone to bed, they sat on the small balcony outside Nathan's apartment. The night was cool, stars are barely visible through the city's light pollution. I'm sorry about Tyler's question, Nathan said. Kids have no filter. Rebecca smiled. I liked his question. It was honest. And your answer was perfect. They sat in comfortable silence, the distant sounds of traffic creating an urban lullaby. Rebecca's mind drifted to the growing sense of belonging she felt in this modest apartment, so different from her sleek penthouse, but somehow more like home. I've been meaning to talk to you about something, she said finally. Something important happening at MediLife. Nathan turned toward her, attentive. The neural regeneration therapy. Yes, we're moving to the next phase of clinical trials. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The preliminary results are promising, not miraculous, but significant. Improved sensation, limited motor recovery in some cases. That's amazing. Nathan's voice was warm with genuine excitement. Your team must be thrilled. They are, and she hesitated, then continued, I'm considering volunteering as a test subject. The statement hung between them, heavy with implications. Nathan didn't respond immediately, his expression thoughtful rather than alarmed. She appreciated that he took time to consider his response instead of reacting with reflexive concern. Can you tell me more about what that would involve? He asked finally. Rebecca explained the protocol in detail, the 2-week inpatient period, the combined electrical stimulation and cellular therapy, the intensive rehabilitation that would follow. She outlined the potential benefits and risks with scientific precision, neither minimizing the dangers nor overselling the possible outcomes. The most important thing to understand, she concluded, is that this isn't about walking again. Not primarily. My incomplete injury means I've always had some sensation but very limited motor function. The therapy aims to enhance neural connectivity around the damaged area, potentially improving both. Nathan listened without interruption, his full attention on her words. When she finished, he asked questions that surprised her with their insight about the mechanism of action, about previous participants' experiences, about long-term monitoring for side effects. You've been researching this, she realized. He nodded. Since you first mentioned the therapy, I wanted to understand. The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched her deeply. It was so characteristic of Nathan, quiet preparation, practical care, wanting to engage with her world on its own terms. Are you doing this for yourself? He asked finally. Or for MediLife, or, he hesitated, to prove something to your father. It was the question she'd been asking herself for weeks. Initially, all of those reasons were mixed together, she admitted. But I've been working with Dr. Patel to clarify my motivations. The therapy needs participants who understand exactly what they're getting into, the risks, the discomfort, the uncertain outcomes. As both a patient with this specific injury and someone who understands the science, I'm uniquely qualified. That makes sense professionally, Nathan acknowledged. But personally, what does your heart tell you? Rebecca considered the question seriously. That I need to do this for myself, not to walk again necessarily, but to be part of the journey toward healing, both for me and for others with similar injuries. To put my body where my company's mission is. Nathan reached for her hand, his touch warm and steady. Then I support you completely. Just promise me one thing. What's that? That you'll let me be there, not hovering or getting in the way, but present. Partner in this like everything else. The word partner resonated through her, not caretaker, not supporter, partner, equal participant in whatever came next. I wouldn't have it any other way, she said softly. The following week, they visited MediLife's research center together. The facility stood on the outskirts of the city, its architecture blending clinical efficiency with natural elements. Lots of glass indoor gardens, spaces designed to feel healing, rather than institutional. Dr. Maya Rodriguez greeted them in the lobby, her professional demeanor warming as she embraced Rebecca. We're honored you're considering participation, she said, then turned to include Nathan. And pleased to meet the man who's been making our CEO happier than we've seen her in years. The tour revealed the scope of MediLife's work rehabilitation facilities, research laboratories, prototype testing areas. Patients with various mobility challenges worked with therapists and engineers to test new assistive technologies. In a private conference room, Dr. Rodriguez presented the neural regeneration protocol in detail. The treatment combines targeted electrical stimulation with regenerative cellular therapy. The goal isn't to repair the severed cord completely, but to create new neural pathways around the damage. Nathan listened intently, asking technical questions that impressed both women. His background in mechanical engineering gave him a foundation for understanding the complex systems involved. The success metrics vary by patient, Dr. Rodriguez continued. Some experience improved sensation but minimal motor recovery. Others regain limited movement capabilities. We're careful not to promise miracles. And the side effects, Nathan asked. Pain during treatment is common. Some patients experience muscle spasms, temporary sensory disruptions. The most serious potential complication is nerve pain that doesn't resolve post-treatment. Dr. Rodriguez's honesty was refreshing. We screen carefully for psychological readiness. False hope can be devastating when results don't match expectations. After the formal presentation, Rebecca underwent preliminary testing, physical assessments, neural response measurements, psychological evaluations. Nathan waited, thumbing through medical journals in the patient lounge, trying to distract himself from worry. When Rebecca finally emerged, her expression was thoughtful but determined. "I'm a candidate," she said simply. "They believe I could benefit from the protocol." The drive home passed in contemplative silence. At a stoplight, Nathan finally spoke. "When would it start?" "2 weeks if I decide to proceed." She stared out the window, conflict evident in her expression. "I need time to think." "What's holding you back?" Nathan asked gently. Rebecca turned to him, vulnerability showing through her composed exterior. "What if it changes things between us? I've finally found someone who sees me exactly as I am. What if the therapy alters that balance for better or worse?" The concern surprised him. "Rebecca, I didn't fall in love with your disability or in spite of it. I fell in love with you, your determination, your compassion, your way of seeing the world." He reached for her hand. "That doesn't change whether you're in the chair or standing or somewhere in between." She squeezed his fingers, eyes glistening. "You love me." The words had slipped out, naturally unplanned, but entirely true. "Yes," he said simply. "I love you. Chair or no chair, CEO or not. I love who you are, not what you can or can't do." "I love you too," she whispered. "And that's why this decision is so complicated. For the first time in years, I'm happy with my life exactly as it is. What if changing anything disrupts that balance?" It was a fear Nathan understood intimately, the hesitation to risk current happiness for potential improvement. "Whatever you decide, we'll face it together." The 2 weeks of deliberation passed quickly. Rebecca immersed herself in patient testimonials and detailed research protocols. Nathan divided his time between the garage Tyler's school activities and supporting Rebecca's investigation process. On the evening before she needed to give her final decision, they sat in Nathan's small living room. Tyler had gone to bed after extracting a promise from Rebecca to explain exactly how the neural stimulator works when she returned from her next business trip. "I'm going to do it," Rebecca announced quietly. "I called Dr. Rodriguez this afternoon to confirm." Nathan nodded, having suspected her decision. "When do you start?" Monday. The initial phase requires 2 weeks of inpatient observation." She hesitated, vulnerability showing through her usual confidence. "I'm scared, Nathan. Not just of the procedure failing, but of what happens if it succeeds." "You mean physically?" "Emotionally, I've built my identity around this chair for 5 years. It's become part of who I am, how I navigate the world." Her voice grew softer. "What if I don't recognize myself without it?" The question revealed depths of self-awareness Nathan hadn't considered. "You're still you, Rebecca. Chair or no chair. The courage, brilliance, and compassion that define you aren't dependent on wheels." She managed a small smile. "Logically, I know that. Emotionally," she gestured vaguely, "it's complicated." "Life usually is," Nathan replied. "But we'll figure it out, day by day." The treatment began on a rainy Monday morning. Nathan accompanied Rebecca to the research center, carrying the small suitcase she had packed for her stay. The admission process was efficient but emotionally charged: paperwork, acknowledging risks, baseline measurements, the assignment of a private room overlooking the center's therapeutic garden. 2 weeks, Rebecca said as nurses prepared to take her for the first procedure. "It'll go by quickly." Nathan squeezed her hand, trying to project more confidence than he felt. "I'll bring Tyler to visit this weekend. He's already working on a get well card with more scientific accuracy than most medical textbooks." Her laugh eased some of the tension. Tell him I expect detailed questions about the process. As they wheeled her away, Nathan felt a peculiar emptiness, not because Rebecca needed the chair, but because her absence, even temporary, left a void in his world that hadn't existed before she entered it. The treatment regimen was grueling. Rebecca's daily text updates grew shorter as fatigue and pain from the procedures accumulated. Neural stimulation sessions left her exhausted. The cellular injections caused inflammation and discomfort. Still, she reported small victories, increased sensation in her upper thighs, occasional muscle twitches that hadn't been possible before. Nathan visited daily, rearranging the garage schedule to free his evenings. He brought Tyler twice the boy's natural curiosity and innocent questions, providing welcome distraction from the clinical environment. On the 10th day, Nathan arrived to find Rebecca's room empty. Panic flashed through him until a nurse directed him to the physical therapy suite. There he found her gripping parallel bars. Therapists, supporting her on either side, face contorted with effort as she attempted to bear weight on her legs. He remained in the doorway, not wanting to break her concentration. Rebecca's arms trembled with exertion, her knuckles white against the metal bars. Then for a brief moment, her body straightened slightly, legs taking a fraction of her weight. The achievement lasted seconds before her strength gave out, the therapist catching her smoothly. But the triumph on her face was unmistakable, not because she had partially stood, but because she had tried and succeeded on her own terms. Later, back in her room, Rebecca's excitement was tempered with realism. It's not walking, not even close, just the ability to support some weight momentarily. It's progress, Nathan countered gently, and you're only halfway through the treatment. She nodded, fatigue evident in the shadows beneath her eyes. Dr. Rodriguez says the neural connections are forming. The real test will be whether they strengthen after the active treatment ends. One day at a time, Nathan reminded her, echoing her doctor's caution against excessive expectations. The remainder of the treatment proceeded with incremental improvements. By discharge day, Rebecca could consistently bear partial weight for short periods. Her sensation had improved significantly below the injury site. The medical team classified her response as moderately successful, not the dramatic recovery some patients experience, but meaningful progress nonetheless. Rebecca returned to her penthouse for the recovery phase, accompanied by a private physical therapist who would continue the rehabilitation protocols. Nathan had arranged to work reduced hours at the garage, splitting his time between Tyler's needs and supporting Rebecca's recovery. 1 week after her return home, Rebecca received an unexpected email. The sender's name alone made her breath catch, Harold Chen. The message was brief. I understand the treatment has shown promise. I would like to visit if you're amenable. No demands, no manipulations, just a simple request. Rebecca stared at the screen, conflicting emotions churning within her. 2 months of complete silence after the press conference had convinced her that her father had simply retreated to regroup, not to reconsider. When Nathan arrived that evening, she showed him the email wordlessly. What do you think? He asked after reading it. I don't know, she admitted. Part of me wants to ignore him, to give him a taste of the rejection he's specialized in. Another part wonders if this might be an opportunity for something to change. Has he ever apologized before for anything? Rebecca laughed without humor. Harold Chen doesn't apologize. He strategically repositions. Nathan wiped his hands on a shop rag, considering the situation. Then maybe the question is whether you're ready to hear whatever repositioning he's planning. Not for his sake, but for yours. The wisdom in Nathan's perspective helped clarify her thinking. I'll meet him. Not here that feels too personal. Somewhere neutral. The meeting was arranged for the following week at a private room in the Botanical Gardens, a public space that accommodated Rebecca's mobility needs while providing the privacy such a conversation required. Harold arrived precisely on time, dressed more casually than Rebecca had seen him in years. A simple sweater and slacks rather than his usual tailored suit. He appeared older somehow, the harsh lines of his face softened by something that might have been regret. Rebecca waited wheelchair position near the large windows overlooking the orchid collection, refusing to break the silence first. You look well, Harold finally said, standing awkwardly several feet away. The treatment was successful. Partially, Rebecca replied coolly. I have increased sensation and can bear weight briefly. The prognosis for further improvement is cautiously optimistic. Harold nodded, hands clasped behind his back. Your mother would be pleased. She always believed in exploring every possibility. The mention of Eleanor Chen, a tactical move Rebecca had anticipated, still landed with emotional impact. Why are you here, father? Harold moved to a bench opposite her, maintaining careful distance. I've been reflecting on my actions, on your press conference. He paused, visibly struggling. On the possibility that I may have been wrong. The admission, however qualified, was unprecedented. Rebecca kept her expression neutral despite her surprise. Wrong about what specifically? About Reynolds? About your capacity to make your own decisions? Harold's gaze dropped briefly to his hands. Perhaps even about the accident changing your judgment. Rebecca waited, sensing more beneath the surface of these concessions. Your mother once accused me of seeing people as assets or liabilities rather than human beings. Harold's voice grew quieter. She said I evaluated relationships like balance sheets. I denied it then. I'm beginning to think she was right. The vulnerability in his confession caught Rebecca off guard. For a moment, she glimpsed the man her mother had loved before ambition and power had hardened him. Why now? She asked. After everything you've done to sabotage my relationship with Nathan, why this sudden change? Harold shifted uncomfortably. I watched your press conference. Not just once, but several times. I saw how you handled the situation with dignity, strategic thinking, and remarkable restraint. His expression softened further. You reminded me of myself at my best and of your mother at the same time. It made me question my assumptions. Rebecca absorbed his words, searching for manipulation or hidden agenda. Finding none, she ventured further. And Nathan, has your opinion of him changed? I still believe he comes from a different world, one that may never fully align with yours. Harold's honesty was unflinching. But I recognize now that his character has value I didn't initially see. His loyalty, his refusal to be bought, his care for his nephew, these are not qualities I can dismiss. The acknowledgement fell short of approval, but represented significant movement from his previous position. Rebecca decided to meet this partial concession with one of her own. I appreciate your willingness to reconsider. It can't have been easy. Harold nodded, once accepting the olive branch. Nothing about our relationship has been easy since Eleanor died. Perhaps before that, if I'm honest. The conversation continued, neither fully confrontational nor entirely reconciled. Harold inquired about MetaLife's research direction. Rebecca asked after family connections she had neglected during their estrangement. The dialogue remained tentative, fraught with unresolved history, but it was a beginning. As their meeting concluded, Harold hesitated by the door. I'd like to meet with Reynolds again, on better terms this time. Rebecca studied her father carefully. I'll discuss it with him, but I won't pressure him, and I won't allow him any further interference in his business or personal life. Understood. Harold straightened, some of his customary authority returning. I've never been good at admitting mistakes, Rebecca. This is unfamiliar territory. For both of us, she acknowledged, but perhaps worth exploring. That evening, Rebecca shared the conversation with Nathan, curled beside him on his worn sofa while Tyler completed homework at the kitchen table. Nathan listened without interruption, his expression thoughtful. Do you believe him? He asked when she finished. Rebecca considered the question seriously. I believe he's genuinely reconsidering some of his positions. Whether that translates to meaningful change remains to be seen. Nathan nodded slowly. And he wants to meet with me. Only if you're willing. I made it clear this is entirely your decision. Nathan glanced toward Tyler, lowering his voice. I'll meet with him. Not for his sake, but for yours, and for the kid. He deserves to have more family in his life, not less. Rebecca's throat tightened with emotion. Nathan's willingness to forge peace for Tyler's benefit, even with someone who had actively worked to destroy his livelihood, revealed yet another dimension of his character. Thank you, she whispered, for being bigger than the hurt he caused. 2 days later, Nathan met Harold at the garage-neutral territory that placed Harold in Nathan's world rather than the reverse. The meeting lasted over an hour, its contents known only to the two men. When Nathan finally emerged, his expression was reserved but not angry. We reached an understanding, was all he would say about the conversation. Not friendship, but a truce. For now. The tentative peace with Harold created space for Rebecca and Nathan to focus on other aspects of their relationship. Rebecca continued her rehabilitation. celebrating small victories, standing with support for increasing periods, sensation returning to new areas. Nathan's business flourished as word spread about his expertise with luxury vehicles. One crisp autumn morning, Nathan suggested a drive to the coast. "There's something I want to show you," he said mysteriously, helping Rebecca into his recently restored vintage Corvette. The destination proved to be a small, secluded beach accessible via a winding path through coastal dunes. Nathan had researched carefully the path was navigable by wheelchair with some assistance, and the beach itself had a firm sand area near the water's edge. "I know how much you have missed the ocean," he explained as he helped maneuver her chair through the more challenging sections. "Tyler and I found this spot last month. It's usually deserted, especially this time of year." The beach opened before them, waves rolling gently against the shore under a clear blue sky. Rebecca inhaled deeply, salt air filling her lungs. Memories of pre-accident beach days washing through her mind. "It's perfect," she whispered, emotion making her voice unsteady. Nathan positioned her chair where she could feel the ocean breeze, then sat beside her on the sand. For a long while, they simply existed in the moment, watching gulls wheel overhead and waves form patterns on the shore. "I've been thinking," Nathan finally said, "about our future." Rebecca turned toward him, curious. "What about it?" "About how to bridge our worlds permanently, about Tyler's schooling and your work schedule, and whether my garage should expand or relocate." He smiled slightly. "About 1,000 practical details that all point to one essential question." Rebecca's heart quickened as Nathan shifted to kneel before her wheelchair, taking her hands in his. "I don't have a ring yet," he admitted. "I wanted to be sure before involving jewelers and making it official. But I know with absolute certainty that I want to build a life with you, whatever that looks like, whatever challenges come with it." The question remained unspoken, but crystal clear in his eyes. Rebecca felt tears forming as emotions overwhelmed her practiced composure. "Yes," she said simply. "To whatever you're asking, the answer is yes." Nathan laughed, joy breaking through his nervousness. "I should probably actually ask the question." "Details?" Rebecca dismissed with a wave of her hand, happiness bubbling through her. "We've never done anything in the conventional order anyway." He leaned forward, kissing her with a tenderness that conveyed everything words couldn't capture. When they parted, he remained close, forehead resting against hers. "There's one more thing I want to try today," Rebecca said quietly. "Something I've been working toward in therapy." Nathan pulled back, slightly attentive. "What do you need from me?" "Help me stand, here at the edge of the water." The request was significant. Rebecca rarely asked for physical assistance, fiercely guarding her independence. Nathan understood immediately what she was offering. Vulnerability, trust, shared strength. "Are you sure the sand might make it harder than the parallel bars?" Rebecca nodded. "I'm sure, Dupont. I want to feel the water, just for a moment." With careful movements, Nathan positioned himself to provide maximum support. Rebecca transferred from the wheelchair to his arms with practiced coordination. Together they moved to where gentle waves lapped at the shore. "Ready?" Nathan asked, his grip secure around her waist. Rebecca nodded, concentration evident in her expression as she engaged the muscles that had been responding increasingly to therapy. Nathan supported her weight while allowing her legs to take what pressure they could manage. For brief, precious seconds, Rebecca stood at the ocean's edge, water washing over her feet, Nathan's strength complementing her own. It wasn't independence, not yet, perhaps not ever completely, but it was possibility, partnership, progress. The effort quickly taxed her recovering muscles, and Nathan eased her back into the wheelchair with gentle efficiency. But the triumph remained glowing in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing what I could be when everyone else saw only what I'd lost." Nathan crouched beside her wheelchair, sand clinging to his jeans, love evident in every line of his face. "I never saw what you'd lost, Rebecca. Only what you had the courage to become." As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, casting golden light across the water, they remained on the beach, two people from different worlds who had created something new together, something neither could have found alone. The path forward remained complex. Rebecca's recovery would continue with uncertain results. Harold's tentative reconciliation required careful navigation. The merging of their lives, professional, financial, practical, presented logistical challenges that would demand creativity and compromise. But on that beach, with salt air surrounding them and possibilities stretching before them like the endless ocean, None of those complications mattered. They had weathered manipulation and doubt crossed barriers of class and circumstance, and found in each other the rarest of gifts, someone who saw beyond limitations to the essence beneath. And in that moment, under the wide open sky, Rebecca Chen finally felt what she had been chasing for years. Not the ability to stand on her own, but the courage to lean on someone else. Not independence, but interdependence. Not recovery, but renewal. It wasn't an ending, it was a beginning.